You're listening to the Unstoppable Teen Podcast, episode number 16. Welcome to Unstoppable Teen, the podcast for teenagers, parents, and teachers. My name is Kevin Mincher. Every week, we will bring you an inspirational person or message to help you experience more success and happiness. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's get this party started. Hello, Unstoppable Nation, it's Kevin here. Welcome to the show. In this episode, I'm going to answer one of the most common questions I get asked. And that question is, why do students fail? When I visit schools all over the country, teenagers will pull me on one side and say, Kev, why do some students fail? I guess they obviously want to avoid those same mistakes so they can get better grades and succeed. On the same day when I'm in a school, teachers will pull me on one side and say, Kev, in your opinion, why do you think students fail? And obviously they want to help their students get the best grades possible and move their school up the league table. And I guess they want my professional opinion, having worked in more than 250 schools, colleges and universities, and with more than 300,000 young people over that time, they want to tap into my experience and get my take on things. Of course, then, when I do parents' evenings, the adults, the parents, the carers of the youngsters pull me on one side and they ask me exactly the same question. Why do students fail? They clearly want to help their youngster avoid unnecessary pain and help them set them up for a fantastic future. Now, rather than giving you a personal opinion on this and share some anecdotal observations, a few months ago here at Unstoppable Teen, we set up an online survey with the intention of being able to diagnose what causes some students to fail and others to succeed. And I think we've figured out one big reason why some students fail. And I'm going to reveal the answer in this episode. So let me give you some background information before I reveal why students fail. Every year we help tens of thousands of young people prepare for their tests and exams and help them do their best in school and get better grades. Gladly, oftentimes students overachieve compared to what they thought they were capable of. They go way past what their parents and teachers even expected of them, and sometimes they surprise themselves. Of course, not 100% of young people pass their tests and exams and get the grades that they want. And so every summertime, I reflect on what we did well and what we could even do better in the following academic school year. And this summer, we decided to set up an online survey. So rather than relying on my own gut intuition and some of the informal observations I make when I'm working in schools every week, I wanted to make sure I was equipped with some proper data. And so we created this survey. In fact, you can go online and you can check it out. You can take it at any time. It's available and it's free for everybody. If you go to unstoppableteen.com, and then when you're there, you'll see a green Start Here button. And if you click on the green Start Here button, you'll be redirected to an article that's all about our philosophy of how we help young people. At the end of that page, there's another button that takes you to the Unstoppable Teen Success Survey. I want you to read the Start Here page before you take the survey because there's some really important information there. And when you get to the survey, you're asked 57 very simple questions. And all the questions are linked to things that have been proven to help students succeed. And many of the things that we ask questions about, students are doing really well in. But we found one critical area where there's a fundamental weakness, and it keeps cropping up again and again, and it doesn't matter whether it's in the north or in the south, whether it's in the east, whether it's in the west, whether it's here in the UK, over in the United States, down under in Australia or in other parts of the world, it just keeps cropping up. And so I'm going to share with you right now what the issue is. In the survey, we ask a series of 3 questions that help us diagnose the level to which young people value their education, the level to which they think that learning is important. Of course, our values drive our decisions, which in turn drive our behaviours and therefore the results that we get. And it needed to become important for us to understand the extent to which young people value education. A student that values it highly is more likely to be engaged in learning. They're more likely to go the extra mile with their homework, to ask questions, to do research, and prepare for their tests and exams. Students that don't value education, that don't think that school and learning is important, will inevitably become more disengaged. They'll ask less questions, they'll do less homework, and all of that leads to their final outcomes when it comes to tests and exams and their final grades. So the 3 questions that we ask in the survey is, to what extent do your parents make you feel your schoolwork and education is important? And on a sliding scale, they're asked to give an answer. And the average answer out of 100 is 86. That's high. Anything above 80 means that parents are helping them have a strong value for education. And so we don't think that nationally or internationally there's a trend of a problem where parents are dumbing down education. Now, inevitably, in some communities and in some families, people poo-poo, put down school, go, oh, it's not that important, it doesn't matter. I didn't do very well, you don't need to do very well either, you'll be fine. That out-of-date thinking just doesn't happen very often anymore. And by the fact that you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to guess that you're not in that kind of family or you're not that kind of parent, because you wouldn't be going out your way to do extra learning if that was the case. The next question that we ask is, to what extent do your teachers make you feel that your schoolwork and education is important? And amazingly, the average score is 91 out of 100. Of course, teachers are going to emphasize the importance of education. They have a profession in it, If they didn't value education, then they wouldn't have become a teacher. So it makes total sense that lots of teachers help their students feel that education is important. Now here's the killer question. The third question. To what extent do your friends make you feel that your schoolwork and education is important? What do you think the average score was? Do you think it would be higher than teachers or lower than teachers? Do you think it would be higher than parents or lower than parents? Well, we were both shocked and disappointed to discover that the average score, when we asked students, to what extent do your friends make you feel your schoolwork and education is important, we got a lowly average score of 58. Now, why does that matter? Well, if our parents are making us value education and our teachers are making us value education, why does it matter what our peers say? Well, here's why. Because throughout history, and certainly in the modern culture today, peer group pressure is a major influence on the things that our children value and that teenagers do. Invariably, we become the sum total of the 5 people that we spend most of our time with. And therefore, if you as a teenager are spending your time with 5 friends that say, oh, school's not important, homework's not important, doesn't matter if you don't get good grades, then you're probably going to develop that attitude and it will affect your grades in school. On the other hand, if you are hanging out with friends that aspire to get good grades, make the most progress that they can and achieve as much as possible in school, then you'll become just like them. You'll develop those values and you'll develop successful results. Of course, I don't know who you are as you're listening to this. I don't know whether you're a teenager, whether you're a parent, or whether you're a teacher. But what I do know is this. We have to change this culture. Why do we have such a big difference when 86 is the score, how parents make you feel about your education? 91 is a high score about how teachers make you value education. Why are we only getting 58 amongst young people and their peer groups? Maybe it comes down to one of 2 things. Either they genuinely don't know how important school is and how valuable education is, or they're just not prepared to publicly admit it. And I'm inclined to believe the latter. There are very few people in the world right now today, and this includes young people, who don't know how important school grades are. There are very few people in the world that haven't recognised that we now have a very different economy today than what existed in the past. So what I want to do in the rest of this podcast is start to talk about how we can start to shift this youth culture. How do we get it cool for young people to value school? How do we get it so that young people have a passion for education and that they'll openly admit it to each other and support and encourage each other, so that we can get this up, so that when we ask the same question a year from now, to what extent do your friends make you feel that schoolwork and education is important? We've got more young people inspiring each other and compelling each other to raise their standards and get the best education possible. Most people know that since the 1980s and 1990s, and as we tipped through into the years of the 2000s, that the economy was changing. That if you go further back to the 1700s, when there was the Industrial Revolution, and when schools were formed by the state for the first time ever, it was way back then, centuries ago, we had a low-skilled economy and we had low-paid jobs. And all the way through to the 1960s, 70s and 1980s, it was somewhat okay for people to leave school with next to no education or no grades, and there were plenty of jobs out there for people like my granddad, who left school at the age of 14 with no grades and no qualifications, and at the age of 14, I mean, can you imagine leaving school at 14? And he left school at 14 with no grades and no qualifications, and that day he walked to the local coal mine, and the pit gates were at the end of his street, Staveley Street in Edlington in Doncaster, and he went and asked for a job, and he got a job. At the age of 14, he was underground, digging for coal. Stayed there for 5 years until there was an underground landslide. He got buried up to the neck in coal, he nearly suffocated and died. Now his dad, my great-granddad, had died down a coal mine. And my granddad, didn't want the same thing to happen to him. So that day, he quit. And with no grades and with no qualifications, he walked 2 miles down the road to a limestone quarry where he asked for another job. He walked there because he couldn't afford the bus fare. And he got a job working in the limestone quarry. He worked there for many years until he got fed up with that. And he decided he wanted a change, and he started to work on the railway. And again, he walked the 3 miles into town, asked for a job working on the railways, and he did that. He walked there because he couldn't afford the bus fare. And with no qualifications, with no grades, he got a job. And he had that job his entire life. And he made just enough money to pay the bills, put some food on the table, and keep a roof over their head. But today, times have changed. And technology has taken over. And those low-skilled, low-paid jobs that men like my granddad used to do in the past, they just don't exist anymore. Or they don't exist to the same extent. Where there might have been millions of those jobs in the past, today there might be thousands or even only hundreds. In fact, in coal mining, in my hometown of Doncaster alone, there were thousands of men and women that left school with no grades, no qualifications, that had jobs for life in that industry. How many jobs do you think there are in coal mining in Doncaster today? None. How many do you think there are in the county of Yorkshire? None. How many do you think there are in all of Britain? Are you following a pattern here? You see, the world has changed, and the importance of education has changed with it. Today, if a business can get a computer to do the job, they probably will. If they can get technology and gadgets to do the job, they probably will. Why? Well, because they don't have to pay sick pay, and they don't have to pay holiday pay. They don't have to worry about changing shifts after 8 hours or 10 hours. It'll work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year without taking rests. And it'll probably be more productive and make less mistakes. And so for young people today, coming out of school, the rules have changed. The jobs market and the economy has shifted. And when young people understand that, they start to value education more. And it might be that our parents didn't get grades or our grandparents didn't get grades, but that was okay for them because they lived in a different time and a different economy. But if you're leaving school now, Learning and education and the quality of the skills and the education that you've got is more important than ever on any other point in history. And so what we've got to do is help young people appreciate the shift in culture and start to value education more. But the question is, how do we do that? One way that we can create this shift in youth culture, where they'll start to openly not just understand the value of education, but to talk about it with their friends and to encourage and support each other to do as well as they possibly can when they're learning. One way we can create this shift is through sharing success stories of brilliant people that they admire, people who are changing the world in all kinds of different industries, and to help them realise that those brilliant people value education too. And because there's somebody that they value, and that could be a celebrity, it could be a politician, it could be a family member, but by sharing their life stories and linking it to learning, then young people start to value education as well. Like, for example, you could share the story of Adam Sandler. Now, here's one of the biggest goofballs I could probably think of. If somebody said to me, think of somebody silly, the kind of comedian that teenagers would relate to, that might even sometimes trigger silly, immature types of behaviours due to the kinds of things that happen in these movies, then Adam Sandler might be near the top of that list. But here's a guy who graduated New York University with a master's in fine art. Now, if you start telling that story and linking it to the movies that he made and the millions that he's made, maybe some of the bad behaving, disengaged students might start to go, maybe there's something about this school and learning lark. Maybe I should pay attention in these classes. Perhaps I should get more homework done. Maybe learning's important. You could share stories of people like Ashley Judd, who's been in the Star Trek movies, who went to the University of Kentucky and got a bachelor's in French. Now, I don't know if she's ever used that as part of her acting career, but I do know that she's done a phenomenal amount of work as a humanitarian and making a difference through various campaigns to help improve the quality of life for people. Chris Martin, lead singer of Coldplay. How many number ones have they had? How many stadium tours they do? And how many millions of dollars and pounds of record sales do they have? I don't even know, but it's a lot. Here's a guy who went to University College London and did a bachelor's degree in Greek and Latin. What? If you'd have asked me what I thought Chris Martin had done, I would never have guessed that. But so many young people go to Coldplay concerts, and if they knew that frontman on that stage doing that brilliant, entertaining stuff, if they knew how much he valued education and constant, never-ending improvement, then maybe they'd feel more free to talk about it with their friends. How about this one? Dwayne, you got it, The Rock Johnson. He went to the University of Miami. I never thought he'd have gone to university, but he did. And as far as I know, what I hear on the circuit, he's one of the hardest working celebrities in the world. But here's a guy who went to university, becomes a wrestler, and it all looks so immature. And it all looks so silly. I'm sorry, wrestling fans, that's just my take on things. But if those teenagers that watch him when he was wrestling and now in his acting knew his dedication to education, maybe they'd feel it was more appropriate to talk with their friends about how important it is to do as well as you can in school. Emma Watson, you know her, Hermione Granger, the girl that played the character in Harry Potter. Went to Brown University, I think it was, and she got a bachelor's in English, despite the fact that she was already a multimillionaire from the movies she made when she was a child. You see, education is so important, and if we share these types of celebrity stories with young people, maybe they become more open with each other. You see, I believe most young people know how important school is, and this isn't just about learning in school, this is not just about going to college and university, this is about every kind of learning. It's about getting involved in extracurricular activities, learning in sport, learning about music, learning about culture, learning about travel, learning about everything. Just that process of every day trying to gain some more knowledge, to grow, to make things better than they already are. We can learn in so many different ways. But before learning takes place, we have to value it. And if you're going to value it, you've got to surround yourself with friends that value it. If your son or daughter or your students are going to value it, you've got to surround them with people and surround them with stories that make it okay for young people to talk amongst themselves about how cool it really is to learn and grow. So to answer the question, why do students fail? It's because many of them don't value education. And it's not because their parents don't want them to value it, it's not because their teachers don't want them to value it, it's because the peer group that they're a part of doesn't value it and doesn't see that it's important. Now, if you want to know how well you're doing, how well your son or daughter is doing, or how well your students are doing, I want to encourage you to complete the Unstoppable Teen Success Survey. Go to unstoppableteen.com, click on that green button that says Start Here, read the article, and take the survey. And at the end of the survey, the cool thing is you get redirected to a page that lists all what we call the key performance indicators that are proven to help students succeed. And if you start doing those things, inevitably your grades will go up, and with that, your life opportunities and potential future earnings, they go up too. Did you know this? There was a study that was done, I mentioned a university already in Miami. There was a study that was done there where they showed that 1% increase in your high school grades leads to a 10% increase in your annual salary after you leave school. How cool is that? 1%. The difference between getting 68% and 69% is worth 10% more on your future salary when you're an adult. The difference between getting 74% and 75%. The difference between getting 88 and 89. You get my drift here, right? 1% more in school is worth 10% more, apparently according to the University of Miami, on your future earnings. Now, if that doesn't make learning cool and education cool and doesn't get young people talking, I don't know what does. So I encourage you to go and take the survey. I've got some other exciting news for you. We've just released the dates for my Spring Tour 2017. I've found which dates I have available, in other words, when I can go into schools and present seminars. And if you'd like me to come to your school in that final 2 months, 1 month, or a few weeks before your final tests and exams to help you boost your performance and get the best grades possible, to help you avoid the common mistakes and advance your grades, then I encourage you to go to unstoppableschools.com and give us a call. The phone number's there. Give us a call and I'd be delighted to come. And whether that's you want me to deliver the Get the Grades You Want seminar, Power Learning 2.0, it could even be Exam SOS. Or if you're in America, Test SOS, which is a seminar I deliver right before tests and exams to help students perform at their best in that high-pressure situation. If you want me to come to your school to share those things, we've got dates available now. We know what they are for Spring Tour, and so get in touch. unstoppableschools.com. The phone number's there. Give us a call. Okay, all that remains for me to say is if you found this useful, please share it. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your colleagues, share it with your parents, just share it. And also subscribe. You can go to SoundCloud, you can go to Stitcher, as well as iTunes. And if you click on the subscribe button through those services, these episodes of the Unstoppable Teen podcast will be delivered directly to your phone every week as new content comes out, and you'll never miss another episode. Well, I really appreciate you listening. As you know, we're on a mission to help 1 million young people experience a better quality of life. And in our opinion, what that means is helping students avoid failure so they can get the best grades, so they can accelerate their growth and prepare for the future. Thank you for listening. I'm looking forward to seeing you again real soon in the next episode where we'll help you become truly unstoppable. Bye for now.